Coming up, it's the third anniversary of the ICT Newscast. Our very first guest, an epidemiologist, tells us how Indian country fared during the coronavirus pandemic. Plus, Native America Calling is a recipient of the National Humanities Medal. We speak to the host who traveled to Washington, D.C. to accept the honor, and we talk voting rights and legal battles with Lakota lawyer Nicole Ducheneaux. I'm Mark Trahant. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Thank you for joining us. We start today in Illinois, where a new bill could repatriate thousands of Native American remains if passed into law. Despite the passage of the federal law, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, the Illinois State Museum holds some 7,000 remains. Since 1990, the museum has only repatriated 2% of the Native remains in its possession, even though it holds one of the country's largest collections. A significant aspect of the proposed law says remains and funerary items still buried in the state or accidentally unearthed from public lands are owned by Native nations. Per current state law, those items are considered property of the state. The bill is currently in the State Assignments Committee and was passed out of the State House unanimously in March. If the bill passes the full state Senate and is signed by the governor, it would create a cemetery on state land where remains would be reburied. It would also establish a tribal repatriation fund to help cover expenses. In Alaska, officials from the Justice Department are fresh off reviewing glaring statistics about the dangers Alaska Native women and girls face. The data comes from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit Alaska Working Group that was formed in 2018. These numbers show an alarming 80% of all Alaska Native women will experience violence at some point in their lives. Overall, nearly 56% of Alaska sexual assault victims are Native. The data also shows Alaska Native people are victims of homicide at twice the rate of the state average. Budget items recommended by the group included funding at every level for things like an updated 911 system and more officers. This information came as part of the Justice Department's annual Tribal Consultation Conference that is required under the Violence Against Women Act. In the nature of a true Native marketplace, the RES trade show gathers businesses and vendors from a variety of fields to showcase indigenous products and services. ICT's Mackenzie Allen Charmley has more.
Talking business and conducting business. The trade show and Native art market are key for an immersive RES experience. From art, jewelry, and apparel to tech and commerce vendors, talents and services of hundreds of indigenous people are spotlighted.
So I'm here at RES to sell my artwork, but also I like sharing our Northern California and basket heritage. So I am selling, but I also am educating at the same time. A lot of even other tribes don't know that there's many California natives still around. So when I come to Native American events, I end up talking about my art, but I also talk about being a California native.
Besides handshakes and laughter, here you'll find businesses and vendors alike hoping to increase their economic growth.
Well, we do a lot of community projects already with First Nations communities up in Canada and with communities up in Alaska. And we just wanted to expand our opportunities and our products, give the benefit for other communities.
With so much expertise in one room, connection is crucial.
We came here to really let people know about our business. So many times I hear people not knowing that there's a Native American CPA out there. And I just want to be able to let people know that we're here to really support them and make connections.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, which is the homelands of the Southern Paiute people, Mackenzie Allen Charmley, ICT News.
And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. The National Humanities Medal is given to individuals and organizations whose work has deepened the nation's engagement with history, literature, and languages. Native America Calling was among the recipients honored in late March at the White House. The live weekday call-in show broadcasts on the radio and online, as had been dubbed the nation's largest electronic talking circle. Native America Calling was first created in 1995 and is now broadcast on 139 radio stations. We're joined now virtually by Shawn Spruce, who is the host. Welcome, Shawn. Congratulations to you and your colleagues.
Thank you, Mark. It's just been a whirlwind of a month here with the award and the trips and the recognition. We're just also grateful at the show for this tremendous award. It really has been just a fantastic experience.
It's so remarkable. Only 12 people are selected each year for this honor. What was it like? What was going through your mind during this event?
It was really surreal. You know, we had a dinner the evening before the ceremony at the Decatur House, right around the corner from the White House, and we got a chance to meet the other medal winners of the first time, because we didn't know who the medal winners were up until that point. They kept everything hush hush, and we came in, met the other medal winners. Were astonished at some of the celebrities who were in the room. And we had a really wonderful dinner and had some good talks. And then, of course, the next day, we headed to the White House, and we were pretty much there the whole afternoon. You know, we had to get up early in the morning and take COVID tests and then work our way over to the White House on a shuttle. And there was kind of a lot of hurry up and wait, but they were really polite. They had a great pre-ceremony reception where we could relax and mingle with other guests. And then, of course, the big ceremony itself. And I'll tell you, Mark, you know, you see it on television all the time, and you see these pictures of the president, the videos, but when they play Hail to the Chief and the president and the first lady come walking into the East Room like that, it's like you feel like you're in a movie or something. It's really over the top.
Well, it may be over the top, but it's a place you belong. Tell us about how Native America Calling began its journey in 1995.
Well, it started nearly 30 years ago, and it was just an initial idea to provide a national audience and a show that would broadcast daily and provide Native people the opportunity not only to share information and ideas and bring in guests from a wide range of backgrounds and disciplines, but also have that interactive format where we would bring in callers. And even with as much as the media has changed in recent years, and there's not so much of an emphasis on radio or call-in type formats, we're still doing it. We're still connecting with audiences all over Indian country, and we're still giving that platform, that voice to everyday people that just have an idea, have a thought, have a question, and want to share that idea on the air with other listeners all across Native America, as well as other listeners as well. More than 90 stations every day broadcast the show. So it's grown a lot. There have been a number of different hosts, a number of different producers and engineers, all of them, many, very, very talented. And I feel lucky here, almost like a cakewalk, where I just happen to be the host at the right time and the right place to be part of this award. But it's obviously a culmination of many, many years of hard work by many, many people.
Well, when you think about Native America Calling, you really think about the history. What are some of the big topics or the guests that you can remember through those years?
Well, Harlan McCossadeau, of course, the late Harlan McCossadeau, who was a classic host of NAC. He interviewed President Bill Clinton at one time. We've been interviewed almost all of the standing members of Congress. One of my favorite shows, since I've only been hosting now for about a year and a half, but early on when I started hosting, we did a show where we talked with three Native people who had actually been to Woodstock. back in the 1960s. And little known fact, but Institute of American Indian Arts actually sent a delegation of students to Woodstock as part of an art show, because originally it wasn't just a concert, it was an art show. And this was some investigative journalism that I'd done on my own, and we were able to focus that and make that a show itself on NAC. It was something I was really proud of and really enjoyed, because it was something that had never been shared before until we presented it live on Native America Calling.
Shawn Spruce, thank you again, and thank you for joining us today. Host of Native America Calling, thank you, and congratulations on your National Humanities Medal.
Thank you, Mark. It's quite a privilege. I really appreciate it. This is the medal that my family made for me, since I can't have the real one at home with me. I've got this one here and I love it.
Good deal. Lawyer Nicole Ducheneaux fought the Dakota Access Pipeline in court. Correction, is still fighting the Dakota Access Pipeline in court. She is a veteran on the legal front lines fighting for Native rights. ICT Shirley Snavy caught up with her at the RES conference in Las Vegas, where she led a panel on Native voting rights.
Hi, I'm Shirley Snavy, and we're at the RES conference, and I have the honor of interviewing Nicole Ducheneaux. She's an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe in South Dakota, and she works for Big Fire Law and Policy Center. And she hosted a panel yesterday on voting rights. I wanted to talk to you about that, so welcome.
Thank you, Shirley.
Tell us about the panel and what your goals were for having a panel on voting rights.
So voting rights is a really hot and important issue in Indian country right now, simply because there are deliberate attacks on the right of Native people to participate in state, municipal, and national elections. And, you know, we do have some reluctance in Indian country to get involved in politics, but it is so critically important to our own sovereignty. Who we elect in a state and national and even a local election has a huge impact on tribes. And, you know, we see it on a broad level. You know, unfortunately, we elected Donald Trump. And the composition of the U.S. Supreme Court changed, and an already anti-Indian court has become incredibly hostile to Indians. And that is a direct result of that national vote. And so what we see out in the localities is that these, you know, local voting officials and local governments are using insidious tactics to make it harder for Native people to vote. And that's a signal that they're scared of our power.
I'm often surprised to hear how many Natives don't vote. And they don't vote because they don't think it has anything to do with them, that their vote isn't going to make a difference. And I think even in Nebraska, with the 4 tribes there, you know, there could be some issues where our voices in Nebraska, you know, I'm Ponca tribe in Nebraska, you know, that it could make a difference. And just to be able to see the world from a different lens, so to speak, of the Native vote.
Yeah, it is disappointing to see that, and we really need a grassroots effort on the ground. I am really lucky to have a relative in my life, my now deceased great aunt Lucille Otter, who was a member of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, and she was famous for getting out the vote on the Flathead Reservation, and still to this day people will remember her. Oh, Lucille was your aunt. Oh God, she used to come to my house and just badger me about voting, and I used to hate it, but you know, now when I go to vote I always think of her. And we need Aunt Lucille's out there in Indian country, you know, because you know, people of that generation understood what it was like to not have any power, and how lucky we are today to have the right to vote and to have you know, power in our tribal governments. So I really am happy when I see our grassroots efforts getting out the Native vote, because it is so incredibly important.
This conference is bringing together a wide variety of people, mostly that are interested in economic development from a tribal or an independent point of view. And this is a year that we're taking a look at the Farm Bill. Should Natives care about the Farm Bill?
Absolutely. The Farm Bill is so critically important. Agriculture is absolutely the most natural industry for tribes. Although many of us are poor, a lot of our tribes are rich in land. And agricultural industry is part of our cultural history as well. Animal husbandry and cultivating the land, and the opportunities that the U.S. Department of Agriculture offers for funding and grants and programs are so critical to Indian country, and there's a lot of untapped resources. And that my firm Big Fire has started an agriculture practice group that I think is unique in Indian country, where we are working to help tribes like update their tribal codes for grazing and for various things that help make agriculture work in a tribal community. And then also to advocate for tribes to take advantage of grant funding coming out of the Keeps Eagle settlement and programs in the Farm Bill, programs in the USDA. And now is absolutely the time, because the U.S. Department of Agriculture has more advocates for Indian country than we've ever had before. The General Counsel is Janie Hipp, an Indian from Oklahoma. The administrator of the Farm Service Administration is my cousin Zach Ducheneaux. We've got Heather Dawn Thompson running the tribal program in there, and they've all put together excellent teams, and they understand our needs.
And the Dakota Access Pipeline, your firm has been involved in that in the past, and
Yes, that's right. So I was just absolutely honored to represent my own tribe, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, in the Dakota Access Pipeline litigation, which unbelievably started 7 years ago in 2016. And although we do have a pipeline under our sacred Minnesota, Missouri River, the tribal plaintiffs in that case won almost every step of the way on the law. And what we were always seeking was a full environmental impact statement. And in 2019 and 2020, that's exactly what the district court ruled. And so we've been in that environmental impact statement process ever since. And tribes have been participating and challenging the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on their cozy relationship with the oil company. And so what tribes are doing now is making the record, because we will sue again. We're Sioux Indians, that's what we do. But that was such a highly visible case in Indian country, because we had such an amazing turnout from the world and from Indian activists, and it's been off the radar. But we are still fighting for our sacred river and our sacred mini, our sacred water, and we're still getting pushback from the federal government. So they better watch out, because we'll come for them again.
Nicole Ducheneaux from Big Fire Law Firm, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
We are celebrating our third birthday here at the ICT Newscast. We first started this show at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. Epidemiologist Dean Seneca was Patty Talhungava's first guest. He aimed to put COVID-19 into perspective for Native communities. 3 years later, ICT Shirley Snavy spoke with him about what has happened since then. This interview was recorded on March 27th.
I am so honored to be the first guest on this newscast. Unfortunately, it was in the beginning of a pandemic. COVID-19 is here to stay. There's a lot of entities looking to end the pandemic. The WHO said that they're looking to end at the end of the year. The Biden administration wants to put an end to it in the middle of May. But to be honest with you, for Indian country, this is not ended. We still have significantly high rates. We have high hospitalization rates. We have high infection rates throughout Indian country. And our death rates are still looming very high. And on top of that, I just looked at the CDC information regarding every racial ethnic group. We are the lowest vaccinated compared to all the racial ethnic groups. So we still have a little bit of a fight on our end here when it comes to COVID-19.
went back in the day when this thing first started, I think tribes were really trying to get the word out that this is saving our elders, which is saving our libraries. Did that word get through at all?
I feel like it was done a little late. If you recall, when I did this newscast, basically the question came to me, are we prepared? And I basically and boldly said, no, we're not. You know, our systems aren't established in order to really monitor this virus. Our epicenters don't have the relationships with the state health departments to actually monitor viruses on a timely basis. We don't have contact tracers to deploy to our tribal communities, you know. I will say that, I made some bold statements in the very beginning, and my colleagues at many of our epicenters were pretty upset at me. They're basically were saying, oh, well, we're established, we're prepared, we can do this. Dean, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a director anymore. And, we're kind of playing politics with this. And I wanted to say, and I did a year after with a little sarcasm that, I understand that we need Native advocates and we need people to really promote Indian country, but there's something to be said about leaving the science up to the scientists. And, that was really the reality, because after I made some bold predictions, Dr. Fauci comes on the nation news, CNN and the Today Show and what have you, and says literally, we are not prepared for this virus. Says that to the whole country. And literally, over 1 million people died. Many of those deaths are related to people in Indian country. 3 years later, people are realizing, hey, we weren't really ready for COVID-19. And Indian country did not fare well during the pandemic. We just didn't. We had the highest hospitalization rates. Again, we had the highest infectious disease rates. We have a ton of pre-existing conditions, including diabetes, which is one of the major ones for COVID-19. And we have housing overcrowded conditions, which lets this virus spread. We have many of our communities that don't have running water and electricity. So, this was kind of the perfect storm for this virus right in the middle of Indian country. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's not over. As a country, we're still seeing, I believe like 350 to 500 deaths a day. These are significant numbers, especially when it comes to our small tribal communities. What I've been telling others is to watch the local rates, watch the rates in your county, within your community, see if those rates go up, over 5% or close to 10%. If they do, that means we have to put preventive measures in place. That is safe social distancing, wearing a mask, or you might want to wear a mask in any kind of crowded area or any place in public. Especially if you're not vaccinated, you have to really practice the utmost in prevention if you're not vaccinated. All of those things work. They have now, if you do get sick, they have Paxlovid and other remedies out there to help you get better. What will eventually happen is that COVID will become seasonal. It will be something just like the flu. And but that takes years for it to evolve and happen. There is a level, on the positive note, there is a level, I would like to believe that there is a level of herd immunity throughout the country, because people either are vaccinated or they got COVID or they have multiple infections with COVID. And there has to be some level of immunity in our population. Because last winter, when we see the triple threat, influenza, RSV, and COVID, we didn't see a spike in any one of those or all three of those together. It means that there was kind of the viruses were working against each other, and we didn't see this surge, which means that, we do have some herd immunity, which is a good thing. I don't like the way we got to herd immunity because it did cost a lot of lives. But we're there, and I think we need to just really monitor what's going on around us when it comes to COVID.
Dean, you were involved with the Ebola epidemic in Sierra Leone years ago, as well as some polio epidemic in Afghanistan. Can you compare our experience here and what you saw back then?
The comparison that I do not like to highlight is that, man, the United States is so much like a third world country than we are willing to admit. A lot of the things that I saw during Ebola and Sierra Leone, that the virus is not real. This is a ploy by the U.S. government. There is a lot of false information out there regarding Ebola, and a lot of the people in the developing country believed a lot of this rhetoric. Now we have COVID-19 here in the United States, and the degree of misinformation, the degree of, believing that COVID is not real and that it's a ploy by the United States government, which brought me to believe in many cases, and I've said this several times, man, the United States is more like a third world country than we are willing to admit.
Thanks, Dean. Take care.
Hey, thank you. Many nyawes and good health and wellness. Bye.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.